Hello, welcome to Candid Career Conversations, a monthly webinar series hosted by the Point Park University Professional Career-Readiness Center. My name is Mike, and I will serve as your moderator for our webinar. Today's topic is finding employment for international students. Today's webinar is brought to you by the Professional Career-Readiness Center, which offers programs and services to enhance student success by providing opportunities to achieve career readiness, increase knowledge of career pathways, and connect to experiential learning opportunities such as internships and co-ops. The center also helps students in developing professional skills, as well as connecting to meaningful employment through strategic partnerships and targeted events. For today's discussion, we will learn about what is the Office of International Student Services and what services do they offer? What career development services and programs are offered at the Professional Career Readiness Center, or PCRC? What are the visa and immigration procedures that international students should be aware of regarding employment and experiential learning? Today, I am glad to welcome two of my colleagues at Point Park, Rebecca Lee, Director of International Student Services and Enrollment, and Dawnese Booker, Program Manager of Experiential Learning. Before we get started with their presentation, I'd like to bring them on board for a quick introduction. Hi, Rebecca and Dawnese. It's great to see you. We're so glad you could join us today. If you can, please tell us briefly about your position at Point Park. What is it that you do to help our students?
Sure. Hi, I'm Rebecca Lee. I'm the Director of International Student Services and Enrollment here at Point Park. I've been at Point Park since 2009 in international higher education for a long time. Seen a lot of things. My role here at the university is to help bring international students on an F1 non-immigrant student visa to Point Park, help them acclimate to Point Park in the Pittsburgh area, and then also help them be successful with that visa and moving through their education, their academic success through at Point Park, and then also help them transition afterwards for work authorization visas and so forth after their time here as a student.
Great, thank you, Rebecca. Dawnese, tell the same question to you.
Hi, everyone. I am Dawnese Booker. As Mike had mentioned, I am the Program Manager of Experiential Learning in the Professional Career Readiness Center. My background is primarily in human resources and higher education. I find that I love working with students, which is what brought me to Point Park. I work with students, faculty, success coordinators, career counselors, employers, all of these different folks to help students with their goals as they relate to experiential learning. Two of those programs specifically are our internship and co-op program, which I'm going to get into here in a little bit, but it really helping students through that process and connecting them with those opportunities.
Great, thank you both for sharing a little bit about yourselves. And when we started planning this webinar, I did not realize that November 17th is International Students Day, and I had to look this up to see what it was all about. It's an international observation of the student community marked by universities worldwide as a celebration of the diversity of their international students. Here at Point Park, I know we are certainly proud of the accomplishments of our international students, and we appreciate their unique challenges that they face as students here in the United States, perhaps far from their homes and their families. So, and I know that our international students, they bring a diverse and unique voice to the community. They bring their talents, their cultural backgrounds, and that really makes us a unique campus community that is stronger and smarter and more creative because of those international students. So happy International Students Day, and kudos to our international students at Point Park. And the next part we want to kind of get to, I understand that you have prepared a presentation that you would like to share with us that provides a nice overview of how international students can find success and pursue employment opportunities through the F1 student visa. So without further ado, the stage is now yours.
Great. So thanks, Michael, for that introduction. Yes, I can tell you that November 17th is International Students Day in the US, but in my office, every single day is International Students Day. So just wanted to let that be known. My primary position here in the university is to help international students come to the US, complete their education, have a really robust time and really robust experience in the United States and at Point Park, and then to help them transition onto successful platforms for the rest of their career as in the US and doing, career-wise and that sort of stuff for their time here in the US. So what I'm here to talk about is international students and working in the US on an F1 visa. So the role of the International ISSE office here at Point Park is to help students studying on the F1 student study visa on the complexities of studying, working, and living on their visa, and to advise them on how to best to stay in status, because that's really important, and to be successful with the opportunities and benefits that they receive that are offered through the F1 visa. So the F1 visa is a student study visa. It is not a work visa, but there are benefits that are associated with that visa as long as the student stays in compliance and they stay in status throughout their time as a student in the US. So working in the United States on an F1 visa, there are really two types of employment that students can really expect. There's on-campus employment, and that is pretty simple and pretty well defined. And then there's off-campus employment, which is usually defined either through CPT, as the government likes to call it, or OPT, which is another phrase, another term that the federal government uses. The federal government does have strict regulations on what you can and you cannot do on an F1 visa holder, and in that way, working in the US. So for the process of kind of simplifying it and breaking it down for an F1 visa, let's take a look a little bit more at what each component entails. So on an F1 visa, working in the US, if you want to do on-campus employment, as a new F1 visa holder, which is considered less than 1 year in the US and studying on an I-20, which is less than 2 full-time semesters, this is your only opportunity for employment. The reason being is because the F1 visa is a student study visa. So at Point Park, that pretty much breaks down to like food service, Culinart, or the bookstore, but you are not considered eligible for federal work study positions, because the federal work study positions is a US government opportunity that is for US citizens only and permanent residents in the US. As if you want to do on-campus employment, because it's a student study visa, it must be less than 20 hours per week while classes are in session. However, if it's during Christmas break, you can work up to 40 hours. If over summer breaks, you can work up to 40 hours a week on campus. But what the point is that 2 full-time semesters that's really necessary for a student to complete in order to consider some other type of employment, okay, other type of work authorization. For the first 2 semesters, it simply really is on campus. So working on an F1 visa in the US, there's a couple things that I use a lot, which, there's a phrase that I use, which is CPT. It's short for curricular practical training. Now, practical training means obviously some sort of work authorization, but curricular is the important part here. So other names for curricular practical training could be internship, could be co-op. I use curricular practical training because that's what the federal government tells me I should be using, okay? I kind of interchange internship and co-op the same thing, but the federal government uses CPT to define any position, either paid or unpaid, that a student undertakes in order to gain practical knowledge. that supports the curriculum that they are studying within a program. That's why it's called curricular practical training. It must be tied to what you're studying. Case in point, if you are a psychology major and you're looking for CPT, it's not, more than likely, it isn't going to be approved for you to go to, say, Starbucks and be a barista for CPT. If you were working for maybe Hill House, or you were working for maybe United Way in some sort of program as a psychology major, that is something, if you can prove that it is tied to your program, sure. But you can't just walk out willy-nilly and go and get an internship, CPT, if it's not tied to what you're studying. You do have to get approval beforehand. It must be tied directly to what you're learning, okay? Approval doesn't come through me. It doesn't come through my office. That is a conversation that has to be had with the faculty advisor, because the faculty knows what you're studying, along with you as well. I can't tell you if what you are interested in doing as far as CPT or co-op or internship is tied to your curriculum, okay? So it really is approval through the faculty advisor. It can be part-time, which is less than 20 hours a week, or full-time. And the federal government denotes anything more than 20 hours per week as full-time, okay? So it's not difficult. There are standards that need to be hit in order for a student to be approved for CPT. Again, CPT is the word that the term that I use, internship, co-op, that sort of thing, okay? You cannot request to do CPT, internship, or co-op until you have studied for full-time for 1 year, which is 2 semesters. The other thing that you have to understand as a student on an F1 visa, if you take more than 1 year, 12 months of full-time CPT, anything more than 20 hours a week, you are no longer eligible to request full-time work authorization after completion. And we'll talk about that in a minute. But that is something that the federal government really, really regulates. They understand the need for F1 visa holders in order to have that opportunity to get that practical training. However, again, this is a student study visa and not a work visa. So authorization really needs to be, make sure that students, keep on top of how much authorization they have and don't go over that 12 months of full-time CPT. The piece that I'm responsible for is an authorization packet, a CPT authorization packet, in the completion of it in order to be placed on your I-20. And the I-20, for anybody that's not quite aware, it's a federal document that a student receives when they ask to come to Point Park. They then take this document to the visa consulate office in their home country. And that is a federal, it's a federal identification, just like, a driver's license, just like a state ID, that a student is responsible for, that kind of delineates their authorization for F1 visa in the US. They get the visa from the State Department, but the Department of Homeland Security, which is the entity that I am responsible for Point Park University, the Department of Homeland Security, in conjunction with the Department of State, is what authorizes the F1 visa for them to come to the US. So the I-20 is a really important component of their time here, and making sure that that stays compliant is an important part of their time here as an F1 visa holder in the US, okay? So the first step to see if you are eligible for CPT, work authorization, co-op, internship, is to email. And I will verify, I am the Office of International Student Services, it's me, just me. I will verify for you if you are eligible. I go back into your CVIS account, I look into Genzibar and look up your enrollment history, and I verify, okay, Johnny, yes, you are eligible to go look for curricular practical training. Go inquire about co-op or inquire about an internship. And then you will connect with Professional Career-Readiness Center, the program manager for experiential learning, and your faculty advisor at Point Park. Your faculty advisor and could be the Center for Student Success here at Point Park, okay? Once you are approved on all those steps and the documentation has been submitted, which is the form, a detailed letter of the employment position, then I can place it on your I-20 within 48 hours. So it's a pretty seamless process. If you have the foresight to do a little bit of planning ahead and to get all those pieces together, you cannot work until it's on your I-20 because it's not authorized by the federal government until it's on your I-20. But if you have a lot of forethought and you can kind of get your ducks in a row a little bit, then it's a pretty seamless process and not difficult at all for international students to do. Okay. So I'm now going to turn it over to Dawnese, who's going to talk to you a little bit about the services that are offered here at Point Park for employment authorization.
Thank you, Rebecca. That was a lot of good information for our international students. What I'm going to do is talk about first some of the services that the Professional Career Readiness Center offers through our department. Then I'm going to get into a discussion of our experiential learnings as they relate to what Rebecca just talked about with the CPT and what that might look like for you as a student here. And then finally, we'll discuss what we do to help you with that process from our end. So first, the services in the Professional Career Readiness Center. So I am not the only one in the center. We have a few different individuals in our office who are available to assist you with these kinds of things. So one of those things would be professional documents and brand management. So what does that mean? That's things like resumes, CVs, cover letters, preparing for interviews, what maybe you should wear, all of those things. We also are available to help with your job, internship, or co-op search. So thinking about your search may be a little bit overwhelming, where to start. Maybe you're interested in a specific area, which is consistent with your program of study. We're here to help you through that process and to provide some guidance there. Also, we offer professional networking and career events. So Kenny Anderson is our coordinator for employment recruitment and student engagement. He works very closely with a lot of different offices on campus and also with employers to help connect students to employers. So that may be a panel related to your major that brings employers to you. It may be something like a career fair, things like that, or the event that we're hosting right now through this webinar. Also, our career counselors are available to assist with interview preparation. So I mentioned that a little bit before, going through those mock questions, what you might be expected to answer, questions that you may be asked, what to wear, how to act, whether it's a virtual interview or something in person. The other thing we do with students is career exploration. So that actually happens a few different ways. One, in working with the individuals in our office, a big part of that is our career counselors. However, we also have a great online platform called Careers on Point. So what that platform does is it walks students through their first year, so freshman year, their second year, sophomore, third, junior, and fourth, senior year, through different kinds of career development activities that you can be doing and you should be doing to help you through your time here at Point Park. So that's an online platform that all students have access to through Schoology. And then finally, career planning and career coaching. So again, having those conversations about what you might need to do to help prepare you for your future goals. And maybe if you're not really sure how to get there or even what you want to do, we have folks available to help you with that. Next, I'm going to talk about our experiential learning programs and what those look like for you here at Point Park. So you don't want to necessarily wait until you're finished with your schooling to get a feel for what it might be like to work in your career, but also to get that experience. Our experiential learning programs allow you to immerse yourself in opportunities to help you launch your career before you graduate. So a few things about that. With the experiential learning programs that I manage, the internships and the co-ops, I work closely with not only you, but your success coordinator, the person who helps you scheduling classes, also the faculty supervisor, like Rebecca mentioned. When you're doing these kinds of experiences, they need to be related to what you're studying in order to receive academic credit for them. So your faculty supervisor is going to work with you to help you determine if that makes sense for the experience that you're looking at. We also, of course, work with Rebecca through all of those processes that she just reviewed as they relate to CPT to make sure that you have that authorization. So again, as Rebecca mentioned, don't wait until the last minute to start moving on these processes. Connect with the different departments early on so that when you get to that point and you find that opportunity, it's not something that you're scrambling to do, and we're here to help. So with the internship program, I'm going to talk a little bit about the differences between the program, internship, and co-op. Students sometimes hear those two terms and they're like, well, what does that mean? What does that look like for me? So our internship program, through internship, students get the chance to try out a career path before they graduate. Students can learn how to apply courses to the real world and build valuable experience through hands-on learning. These are students who are typically maybe not necessarily sure what they want to do, but they want to get some experience. For the internship programs, a few things about that and what makes it a little different than co-op is that these are usually more part-time experiences, so about 15 to 20 hours per week that a student is working. They may be full-time, but typically more part-time, so not spending a ton of time with that employer, but again, getting a feel for what it's like to work in that kind of environment. Also for internships, they are typically 150 to 200 hours that you are required to complete total over the course of the semester. So again, that's where you get that about 15 to 20 hours a week. Some of the different academic programs require 150, some require 200. And again, that's why we connect with the faculty supervisor to determine how many hours total you need to complete for you. For the internship program, you're typically receiving 3 credits if you are registering it for credit. And we do work closely with your success coordinator to see if that will fit into your degree, if you have the available space to register it, and also to walk you through and to assist with that registration process. Next, we're going to move into a discussion of the co-op program. Now, our co-op program, here, students are able to gain credits, gain experience, and get paid. So the program actually immerses students in full-time paid work experience, enhancing their career opportunities before they graduate. Now, with the co-op program, there are some key differences as they relate to the internship program. They're a little bit different. The co-op program, you again are working those full-time hours, usually about 35 to 40 hours per week. During the semester, you are required to work a total of 384 hours in order to meet that minimum requirement to get the credit for the experience. For that experience, you are receiving 6 credits as opposed to the 3 with the internship. And as mentioned before, co-ops are paid experiences. These are typically for students who are maybe looking to jumpstart their career. So Maybe you know what you want to do, or you're interested in a specific company or a very specific department. Spending more time with an employer doing work with their company is going to allow you to get that experience that's going to help prepare you for post-graduation. There are some additional eligibility requirements with co-op that are important to note. While with internship, you may be able to participate a little bit earlier in your academic journey, and that does depend on your academic department requirements and qualifications. But with co-op, you are required to be at least a junior or senior. So that means you have to have at least 60 credits completed before you're eligible to participate. Another important eligibility requirement is your GPA. You have to have at least a 3.0 GPA in order to participate. And we also highly recommend that you take a career preparation course prior to participation, which helps prepare you for that kind of professional experience. We work closely again with your faculty supervisor here, your success coordinator, and Rebecca to see if this is an option for you. Next, we're going to move into a conversation about how you can actually find these kinds of experiences. Now you know a little bit about what those experiences look like or the different programs, but how do you go about finding those experiences? We'll connect with our office, again, with our career counselors and myself, but we also have access to a really great platform called Handshake. As a student at Point Park, you have access to this platform for free, and even after you graduate. Employers connect with universities through Handshake to share opportunities like internships, co-ops, full-time, part-time jobs, so even like post-graduation or after graduation employment. And it's a really good way for you to be able to showcase your talent and not make it so much of a hard process for yourself. We're here to help with that, but again, really great platform to help you find those opportunities. Speaking of post-graduation employment, I'm going to roll that back over to Rebecca to talk about what that might look like for you as an international student.
Thanks, Dawnese. So as you just heard about the opportunities and the services that Point Park can help you throughout your tenure as an international student here at the university. You know, I discussed on-campus employment, and then I discussed the curricular practical training, and that really does break down into internships or cooperatives. As an F1 visa holder in the US, you do have another option, which is optional practical training. And optional practical training basically is 1 year or more of full-time work authorization after completion of your studies. So, international students not only come to the US for the experience of being in the US and the opportunity for the education, but they also want the experiential or the work authorization. So as long as a student does everything that they're supposed to do and they stay in status and they make good progress towards a degree and they don't engage in, in illegal work authorization, OPT is a process and is available, is a benefit for students that are studying on an F1 visa. It is, like I said, it is a benefit. It must be approved beforehand by the Department of Homeland Security. So when we talked about CPT, which is curricular practical training, internship or co-op, that is something that can be approved through your faculty advisor, and then I can place it on your I-20. And usually if everything is in place, it can be done within 48 hours. But the approval for optional practical training takes a lot longer. And the application, which is pretty robust. The application is pretty robust. The application must be submitted to the government, to the Department of Homeland Security, 90 days or less before completion of your studies. So for a student, say they've done maybe 2, internships or an internship in a cooperative, and they know that, they want to work in sports management. And they want to seek out, the opportunities that the U.S. has in order to engage in sports management through a company in the United States. They can, submit the application through, in my office, I do advise students on the best way to complete it. They can do it online or they can do it by mail, but the application can be submitted, like if they're graduating in May, they can submit the application in February, okay? It does take a long time for adjudication because it does go to the federal government, so you shouldn't delay in submitting the application. There are very busy times that the federal government hits. There are, a lot of students that graduate in May. So my advice is always, if you know for certain that you want that 1 year to work in the United States full time, that you should submit your application earlier rather than later. There is a fee of $410 that is paid to the Department of Homeland Security. There's also a list of things that need to be completed. You need to have all of your I-20s, which is an important federal document, passports, photo page, that sort of thing for the application. The important thing is you can look for a job while your application is being adjudicated, while it's pending. So you can attend, career fairs. You can go out and you can do interviews, but you cannot start a job until your authorization card arrives and the date that is stated on the card. Okay, so again, it's a little bit different. International students, F1 visa holders have to abide by some certain regulations. And once you get that card through the Department of Homeland Security, that is an employment authorization document. The nice thing about that is you can go anywhere in the US and you can work. You don't have to stay in Pittsburgh. You could go to Alaska, you could go to Hawaii, you could go to Puerto Rico if you wanted to and work. So you can go anywhere in the US that you find the employment, and it is for full-time employment for 12 months. One thing that you do have to understand is the federal government does not necessarily want you here if you're not working and not working towards that employment. So you only get 90 days of accrued unemployment for the whole 12 months. So it is important that you stay on top of your employment. And if there's something happens, that you connect with me and I can provide you with options. It could be another internship. It could be, volunteer opportunities, but you want something that's documented so that you do not in any way, kind of just not have that opportunity moving forward, because F1 visas are a status visa, meaning you have to be making good progress on your status in order to stay compliant with the visa. Okay. So how do you get started on an OPT? So you worked a year on campus in Culinart, you did a couple internships, a cooperative, and you want to work in the United States after completion of your studies. Well, I always tell students, attend job fairs, connect with career development, and let potential employers know that you are applying for optional practical training after completion, and that you have a year or more, if you are compliant with all of the needs that are met, all of the compliances and stipulations of your visa for work authorization that you have with that visa. So it's not complicated, but it is complex. And my office and me as the Director of International Students is to advise students on the best way moving forward and making sure that they stay compliant so that they can keep those benefits going, right? So the last thing that you want to do is not stay compliant and not stay in status so that those benefits are removed, because students have done so much and you've worked so hard, but the last thing that you want to have happen is not to have that opportunity, especially if it's being afforded to you with the visa that you're on. So that was it. That was the whole kit and caboodle with both CPT, OPT, I believe, and whatever, and all the things that Point Park can offer students as international students here in the United States.
Thank you, Rebecca and Dawnese, for your presentation. We really appreciate you sharing that helpful information about the services you provide, about experiential learning, co-op internships, and the complexities of the regulations and the rules in the federal government. I mean, for our international students, getting a job is not a simple process. So thank you, Rebecca, for kind of breaking it down and making it a little bit easier to understand this process that can be complex. My first question, let's explore the topic a little bit more with just a few questions before we wrap it up. Rebecca, I wanted to ask you, why is it important for international students to learn what employment is allowed before they consider a potential job or experiential learning?
Right. So why it's important is the fact remains is staying compliant with the federal regulations is going to help them move forward and be successful later on. What I don't want to happen is unauthorized employment to happen, the student moving forward not realizing or not caring, and then unfortunately the federal government finds out. The fact of the matter remains is F1 visa student status can be withdrawn if unauthorized employment happens. And I have seen students that have had benefits removed, so extended OPT removed from them or denied because of unauthorized employment. So it's really, really, really important that the student comes to me or sends me an email and says, hey, I just had one this afternoon, say, hey, can I work for Postmates as an internship? And I'm like, oh, not quite so certain that Postmates is an internship or a cooperative sort of situation. And rather than just going out and working for Postmates, right? So it's always better to circle back. Always better for me to reiterate that it needs to be tied to what they are learning so that in the future, these sort of opportunities are not withdrawn from them, right? That's not what we want. We want them to continue and succeed. So it's always like an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure, that sort of thing.
Okay, yeah, thank you, Rebecca, for the breaking that down a little bit for us. Yeah, like you said, the consequences of accidentally violating a law could be severe. So before they start a new job or anything like that, talk to you first, make sure it is allowed under the federal regulations.
Yes.
So, the next question I wanted to talk to you about, you talked about the importance of participating in experiential learning. It's a little bit more complicated for our international students. If they want to do an internship or a co-op, talk a little bit about, Rebecca, what international students, again, are allowed to do based on federal regulations. Just kind of break it down. I know you did cover that, but just kind of summarize for us.
Sure. So the first year that they are in the U.S. and studying on an F1 visa, it's pretty limited. It's really on-campus employment. And the reason why the federal government only allows on-campus employment the first year, because they have to prove that they have the financial means to study in the States for 1 full year without illegal or ungainful employment. So that's why the federal government says, you know what, you can work, but you can only work on campus. After that 1 year, 2 full-time semesters, they can then apply or they can then reach out and inquire about CPT internship, which they can do if it is managed for, up to 1 year of full-time, it's up to 12 months of their time here at Point Park. So they can engage in full-time, anything over 20 hours, full-time CPT up to 12 months while they are a full-time student. After that, after they're done with their completion of studies, it switches to OPT, which is optional practical training, which is that 1 year or more of full-time study or full-time work in the US after their completion of studies. So on-campus employment, CPT while they're a full-time student, and then OPT, optional practical training after completion.
Yeah, thank you for that explanation. Now, if you could tell us a little bit about volunteering. A lot of our students want to volunteer. It's a little more complicated for our international students. If they want to volunteer, what are some things they need to keep in mind?
So if it's a true if it's a true volunteer opportunity, like something like Habitat for Humanity, that they are doing for a class project, not a problem. That's not a problem. What the problem becomes if there's any sort of remuneration, and remuneration by the federal government standards is some sort of payment. It can be housing, it can be books, that sort of thing. It gets a little bit sticky because in the federal government's mind, that is payment. So volunteer opportunities, again, the students should circle back to me. I will ask them a few questions, find out exactly what it is, how it breaks down, and then I can let them know, does this fall into volunteer? Does this fall into any sort of paid? And if it is, how to move forward, or if they have to just turn it down. Okay.
Okay, yeah, thank you for that. Next question, Dawnese, I wanted to ask you a little bit about if a student, an international student, wants to pursue volunteer opportunities or experiential learning, what are some tips and strategies you recommend for them to pursue those opportunities?
So the first thing I would say is that don't feel like you have to go at it alone. It can be overwhelming if you're not really sure where to start. Our office, again, between myself and especially, with our career counselors, we have a lot of resources and maybe even connections that we may be aware of opportunities. So for example, if it may be like a volunteering opportunity, but with experiential learning, especially, use Handshake. It's a free resource to you. Tons of employers post on there, lots of opportunities, and it really allows you to focus your search based off of what you're looking for. Sometimes with Google, you never know what you're going to get, right? There may be employers out there or people posing as employers that are saying they're offering an opportunity that's really not legit or legitimate, if you want to say. Also, in searching for those opportunities, pay attention to the emails that come from the Professional Career-Readiness Center. Kenny Anderson sends a lot of emails that relate to events. They may be something that a specific employer is coming to campus to talk about the opportunities they're offering, or things about career fairs that are happening, either ones that we're hosting or other organizations are hosting, such as Westpac's. And then finally, talk to your faculty members. They also may be aware of opportunities from industry connections that they have, where, prior colleagues are sharing opportunities with them that gets trickled down to students. So talk with them, let folks know that you're looking for these opportunities, so that we can make you aware and how to connect you to them.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, thank you, Dawnese. Yeah, we are here to help, and there are people here to help in the Professional Career Readiness Center to help students to connect with those opportunities. And like you said, yeah, I think you had some really good tips and strategies about connecting with faculty and using their knowledge and experience in the industry and in their major to help students connect to those opportunities. So thank you for that. Rebecca, I wanted to ask you about international students who might be having some hardships. Like, what options do international students have if they are suffering severe economic hardship due to unforeseen changes in their financial circumstances?
Sure. So for students that are really dealing with unforeseen financial issues, first step is to come and talk to me. That is the best first step. Depending upon where they are in the process, I can advise them in a couple of different ways. There is a process that a student can apply for economic hardship work visa. Unfortunately, that is an application, and that is something that needs to be adjudicated by the Department of Homeland Security. So there's a whole application process. Beforehand, we can certainly, the student, if they're going through, a devastating loss back home and they're having problems with financial, they can certainly start the process with a financial aid appeal, but that is not going to take care of the whole bill, right? That might be an additional piece that Point Park is able to offer, but there might be, we might be able to get, some, work authorization, or we might be able to do some on-campus employment for the student. There is work authorization available, but the advice is to come see me sooner rather than later. Remember that ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. Like that should be the motto for F1B. So, plan accordingly. But I mean, I know you can't plan for things that, unfortunate things that happen, but coming to see me or reaching out to me so that I can help through the process a little bit better and advise would be the best option to do at the very beginning.
Thank you for that. Yeah, thank you for the overview. There are options, but it's better to talk to you first early on before it gets to be an even worse problem. So thank you for that nice overview. Dawnese, I know you talked about this before, and I think it's important to stress. I wanted to ask you again, like, why is it important for international students and all our students really to contact the Professional Career Readiness Center to help them search for jobs and connect with experiential learnings?
That's a good question, Mike. And when students are looking for these kinds of experiences, they may get really excited about what they want to do, or what maybe they may have found something, but we need to make sure that they're following the procedures, that what they're looking to do is in line with the requirements for Point Park's programming. So it's related to their major, but also as it relates to the CPT authorization, right? Doing all this work, getting your resume ready to go, you looked at all these different places, and then it's not in line with what it needs to be, could be very frustrating. So again, as Rebecca mentioned, doing all of that up front is going to help prevent you from a lot of heartache and frustration, and to make sure that you're in line and on track with what you're looking to do.
Right, absolutely.
Yeah, thank you. As a kind of a follow-up, Dawnese, to that, what are some things that our international students can do when they're researching and trying to find companies or organizations to do experiential learning? What are some tips and strategies you have to help them find work sites that are supportive of and hire international students?
So one thing that I would say is that when students are looking at job descriptions is to make sure that you're reading them thoroughly, right? Employers provide a lot of information about what they want that student to do, or what that position entails. To look for words or indicators that they do work with international students. Some employers may have a statement that says that they do work with students for the authorization, and some they may not. So it's important to look for those kinds of indicators. And if you're not sure, reach out to our department. We can help you with that. Sometimes it may be something that you'll need to ask in the interview, like specifically ask and let them know that it's something that you're looking to do to make sure that it's okay. So don't be afraid to ask questions. I will say sometimes employers don't provide all the information out there that we would like them to on the job descriptions, and that's okay. It's okay to ask.
Yeah, thank you for that tip, some of those strategies for our international students. The next question, Rebecca, I wanted to ask you, you are the go-to person for our international students. You're the one-stop shop, your office, but like if they have a very specific challenge that they can't solve on their own, what should they do to get help that they need? And you may refer them to somebody else. So tell us a little bit about that process.
What are we talking about on help for on campus, or are we talking something much bigger?
It could be any and all of the above.
Okay, so I am a resource for students. I am a resource for international students. If it falls within the F1 visa umbrella, it really just is me. However, I may refer them to somebody on campus if it doesn't fall within my genre, within my wheelhouse. If it's student accounts, or if it's their student success coordinator, or career counseling or something like that, then I will refer them out. If it is a larger scope than F1 visa, and there's an immigration component, then I might say you might have to go see an immigration attorney. I'm not an attorney. I've never been an attorney. I've done 25 years of international education. So I have about this much depth on F1 visas, which is good, but there are a lot of different visas in the United States. So I might have to refer them outside of the university. So yeah, if it's an F1 visa question, bring it on. I can usually find it if I don't know it, but I've usually pretty much, at this point, I've pretty much kind of gotten all the questions I can, I'm pretty well versed in all the F1 stuff. If it's a Point Park question, I may not know it, but I might know who would know it on campus. If it's a immigration question, well, I might have to help give you some list of resources that you could go to outside of the university in order to get that help that you need.
Okay, yeah, thank you for shedding a little light about the whole referral process. And if you are the expert of the F1 visa process, but you can at least point our international students, point them in the right direction and kind of offer a little guidance about where they can get that, specialized help, whatever the situation may be. Last question, this is sort of just like a fun question, but what is one thing you enjoy most about working with our students here at Point Park? And Rebecca, you could start first.
Oh yeah, thank you. When I started with international, first of all, I started a very, very, very long time ago, before really there was computers and it was done through snail mail. And I remember the feeling of recruiting, and again, recruitment was like 6 months. It wasn't like 6 days or 6 weeks. My very first student, and greeting that student on campus. And that student was from Bangladesh. And I thought, wow, what else can I do that I can meet all of these people from different cultures, different backgrounds, different experiences, and I never have to leave my office. And knowing that the best feeling in the world, absolutely the best feeling in the world as far as my career, is getting a student that I know is a good fit for Point Park, and that I know Point Park will be able to help them in their career aspirations, in their life aspirations, and knowing it's going to be a really, really good symbiotic process. That's the best feeling. It really is. And also knowing that these students add to the mosaic of this campus. We are a diverse campus. However, there is the diversity that international students bring that you can't get within a 5-hour radius of Pittsburgh. And that is probably, there are some incredible people that I've been able to meet over the course of 20+ years, and I've been pretty lucky in what I've been able to do.
Thank you, Rebecca. Yeah, that's great to hear. Donnie, same question to you. What do you love about your job and helping our students?
So that's a good question. I think about my time as an undergraduate student, and I grew up about 30-40 minutes from Pittsburgh. And I didn't step much further than that for college. I went to a university in the Pittsburgh area, and I never would have imagined considering an international experience. And it wasn't until after I graduated college, I worked a little bit, and I went into the military in the Air Force, that I really had my first experience working with folks who were, one, outside of Pittsburgh, right? And two, from anywhere and everywhere. And so when I think about working with international students, I just get so excited and inspired by what they do. I mean, one, first of all, going through the process of getting to another country to study and their regulations to make sure that you can do that is just like, wow, it just shows me like what kind of people we have set for our future, right? The kind of things that they're able to take responsibility of in their independence, but also to just inspired by what they bring to the university, just similar to what Rebecca mentioned. And here I am, little Pittsburgh girl in the Pittsburgh world, and having the opportunity to interact with students from, other cultures, and what they have to bring to the table, and what they can share about their experiences, and really just kind of mesh those into their Point Park experience is just really wonderful to see.
I agree. Yeah, I mean, just having the international students here on campus, it makes our community so much richer, and you know, we all benefit from that, the international students here on campus. So we're kind of out of time here, but I do want to kind of wrap things up by just saying thank you, Rebecca and Dawnese, for being our special guest today. I think you really helped to break things down about the services you provide and all the good things about experiential learning and F1 student visas and everything that I never really knew anything about regarding the issues our international students have to go through. So thank you for sharing your knowledge, your experience with us, and it was a great conversation, and we appreciate all that you do for our international students.
Thank you. Well, thank you for asking me. It's really, really nice that to collaborate with other departments and get information out to students. Being a lonely one-person office, it's really nice to have that availability to kind of move the mouthpiece forward a little bit. So I really do appreciate the time. Thank you so much.
We hope you found this discussion helpful as you continue your journey on your career pathway. I'd like to remind you that the Professional Career Readiness Center at Point Park is here to help you as early as freshman year and long after graduation. So please connect with us on social media so that you can stay up to date on all of our programs, giveaways, and events. You can follow us on Instagram at PPU Careers, Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube. Also, as a reminder, all career readiness appointments are scheduled through Handshake, so please connect with your career counselor today to schedule an appointment. Thank you again for attending this month's Candid Career Conversations, and we hope to see you at the next webinar. Until then, take care, be safe, and stay healthy.